Hey, can you all hear me? Great. Hi. So, John, thanks for the intro, and everyone, thank you so much for having me and to speak. So, another little tidbit I don't know if John knew, but I was really struggling to find a job when I got out of the military. The accolades may have been there, but someone taking the leap of faith to help me transition to my civilian life with a service animal by my side, that was something that was very difficult in 2014 timeframe. Not many people were doing that. And so, John and Patty, thank you for bringing me here to the Austin area to help transition a veteran's life. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in my story today. So again, thank you, and it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this event today. Even though we're virtual, this is pretty awesome. This is my first virtual speaking event, so I'm honored that it is with Healing with Horses Ranch. So thank you. So today I want to talk to you about something that I feel like only veterans on this call may really relate to. And if you're not a veteran and you cannot currently relate, then maybe you'll gain a new understanding on a perspective that only a few in this country really and truly grasp. If you don't understand it, if you don't get it, or you don't think it matters, I don't really care. Today we're celebrating Armed Forces Day and veterans that have healed from trauma. And I'm going to share with you something that is deeply personal to me as a veteran with a voice. And that's all I care about right now, right here, sitting before you on this call. So thank you. To be completely transparent, I actually wrote part of this speech on 3 September 2019. I was actually en route from Ramallah in Palestine on my way to Tel Aviv. I was on a trip with 15 other U.S. military veterans, all services, a smattering of different ranks and diverse backgrounds. And while we had all been selected for this educational seminar because we were veteran leaders in our community, during this trip, we learned about deeply personal journeys each of us had experienced in and outside of our military experience. One of us had lost an arm in Iraq. The other had lost his will to live several times and had actually attempted suicide. And one of our members had been accused multiple times of sleeping their way up the rank structure. Another one of us had struggled with alcoholism after struggling home from multiple deployments overseas. One of us had locked themselves in their dorm bathroom to escape rape by their drunk commander. Another qualified for food stamps. But these traumatic events are not what defined us as veterans on this journey. It was actually something much, much more than that. It was a bigger thing. It was a common understanding of a mindset. So let me explain this a little bit. For me, it took a trip halfway across the world with these U.S. military veterans to realize why mindset's so important for veterans in the U.S. And specifically why it took being in Israel, a country where the word veteran is not a special word. You see, as a country surrounded by conflict and in the epicenter of world aggression, military conscript is not only mandatory for both men and women, but it's part of their culture. Little girls and boys actually grow up wanting and dreaming about being in certain military units to serve their country. Something that we're not really familiar with here in the US. Culturally, the members of the Israeli society that have not served or are not able to serve for one reason or another are actually perceived as a bit outcasted. There's a stigma. The Israeli military has even gone to such lengths as to stand up special units for citizens that normally would not be able to serve due to psychological, mental, and physical handicaps, and find a place and purpose for them to serve. Whether it be packing MREs, supporting a logistics warehouse, or even reading satellite images. You see, autism brings with it this really cool superpower to be able to remember incredible details and changes over time that's very valuable when reviewing intelligence surveys. They have found a place for them to serve so that they too can feel like a contributing member of society and live normally. Being a veteran is being an Israeli. They have the front lines of confounded conflict knocking on their front door on all sides. And this has brought a uniquely cultural mindset that serving and being okay with the idea of fighting and dying for your country is something that largely everyone in Israel understands and accepts. So I want to take this one step further. it gets into this first mindset I want to talk to you about that unites veterans. The following passage is actually something that I wrote on a bus after leaving Ramallah on 3 September. Journal entry for you. Quote, "It's kind of scary to think about how okay I was with the idea of dying while I was in the military, because it felt like that was just part of the job. But it was also something I never shared with my family because I did not want them to hurt from my mindset. A warrior's death was an honor in some way. It was this idea that I died for something bigger than myself. I was dying for my brothers, my sisters, my kin, and my country. In the military, you almost become passive-aggressive suicidal. You don't want to die. You don't hope to die. But you become so okay with the idea of dying that it becomes normal. And psychologically, I don't even think you come back from it. You leave the military, you try to go to school, get a normal job, you try to fit back in and adjust to civilian life once again. You struggle to relate with your family. You struggle to relate with other students. You struggle to relate with your coworkers, your neighbors. You find that the only people that really make sense to you are veterans or your friends that are still in. They understand you. They know the same feeling all too well. The only way to supplement this idea is to find some kind of purpose, but it's rare to find another job that gives you the same level of purpose that you once felt. And I think that's why so many veterans feel so depressed and so suicidal so often. We're lost. We're so extremely lost in this world, searching to fill a void. Sometimes there are voids that we look to be filled by joining the military. And for some, it does for a while. Broken families breed some of the best soldiers I've ever had the privilege of serving beside. I met some of the best people I've ever known while serving our country. But our times in the military all ended at different turning points, and our pain all started again at different times. We longed for a family we found. We bonded over pain, blood, sweat, and genuine love for each other. When we become separated from our family, that search begins again. Some of us never find it, not in the same way we did before. Sure, you see veterans or old friends that you served with every now and again, if you're lucky. But that everyday living and suffering together, that's what you miss and long for once again. When you get out of the service, when I got out of the service, it was a constant struggle for several years to find that sense of belonging. But I found it, and it's all in a mindset. So that's the end of the journal entry. So now I want to go back to that bus ride, chugging along from Ramallah to Tel Aviv. The veterans on that bus are citizens in their communities, defined by the purpose they found after the military service in uniform. Each one of us had been recognized as a veteran leader in our community, a touch point for the pulse of issues related to veterans. Voices and action areas that elected officials in our communities go to when it comes to veterans affairs. In fact, some of us were actually elected officials. Others might be in the near future. However, more than our status as veteran, we all had this mindset of being okay with the idea of dying for our country. And we also still had the mindset that after service, we were still needed, that we still have a purpose. So with less than 6% of the U.S. population being veterans, and only 1% of the population currently serving, this amazing group of individuals I had the privilege of traveling with, we all knew that we were still needed in order to be an advocate for those veterans that were still lost. We have to be there for those that are lost in another mindset, those that are currently struggling for resiliency, those veterans that still long for that everyday living and suffering together in uniform, a constant struggle to find a sense of belonging. They question their career choices, and the people they've spent time with, and worst of all, it makes them wonder if they will ever have a purpose worth being alive for again. So hidden behind forced smiles and sad eyes, they have an empty searching for that thing to fill that void. It's isolating, and they struggle to connect because they live in a country where their experiences are not common. Military experience is not a national unifying experience, and being a veteran comes with a culturally perceived stigmas that scare one into opening up about their service and mindset. Some are still hoping they will be lucky enough to be granted a warrior's death. They feel broken. Some keep fighting on, but others keep feeling like they lose more and more each day. I know this mindset because I too struggled with it for the years after my accident in Afghanistan. This team I was traveling with not only knew, understood, and still lived the mindset that veterans have of being so okay with the possibility of dying, but we also know that we have more work to do in this world for our country after the uniform. And we have a lot to learn from a country that knows how to take care of those that have suffered loss and trauma in conflict, and to take those lessons back to our own communities and to make them stronger and more resilient. They even have programs on healing with horses in Israel because they know it works. Well, our group of 15 U.S. combat veterans hanging out in Israel, we were able to connect to a country, to a people, and feel embraced by a culture that got us, like really, really got us. Except for in Israel, they have such a strong support system nationally and at a family level and a friend level, that the ones that they love don't fall through the cracks like they do here in the U.S. They have a robust healthcare system in place to help them heal physical and emotional traumas from war. They have programs like healing with horses. They are surrounded by a country that understands the mindset of what they have been through. They are in it together. They aren't outcasts, and their experience in combat are normalized and not stigmatized. The first night we were in the country, one of the Israeli leaders from our team talked about his experience during a blast accident in his military background. He casually described the experience as, quote, getting punched in the face with a fist of hot air, end quote. When he mentioned this at dinner, I felt like the world stood still for me. That's exactly what it felt like when the same thing happened to me in combat before I lost consciousness. But never had I ever been able to talk to someone I just met, let alone in another country, casually over dinner. If I ever do mention something like a blast injury or what it was like getting shot to a room full of strangers in the US, you could hear a pin drop. And everyone looks at me like I'm a complete oddity, and the super awkward questions start to follow. My favorite is more of a statement rather than a question, and that's, quote, you don't look like a veteran, end quote. Hence, I knew I was about to go through a journey, through an eye-opening experience in a country where probably I could relate to a majority of the population rather than a minority, and they could relate to me. Mind blown. And I was doing so with a unique team of my fellow veterans. We were in this together to learn about a country and a culture that not only accepted this veteran mindset, but really didn't care that we had served, because they had all served too. We were no longer different. We were no longer the exception. That's when I realized the power of mindset. The mindset that we have accepted and are okay with the idea of dying for something greater than ourselves is what united us on that trip to Israel and with the Israeli people and a nation. It's this mindset that our unique group of U.S. veterans had with a continued sense of purpose after service. Sometimes when you believe in something greater than yourself, rock bottom has a trampoline. For those veterans back at home in the U.S. that still felt lost, disconnected, and struggled to find their purpose, we had found our trampoline, our advocacy, voices, and leadership back in our communities and country as veterans to advocate on behalf of our fellow veterans that couldn't do it for themselves. They are our trampoline. So, to my fellow veterans on this call, and I really hope there are other veterans on this call, while it took me a trip halfway around the world to a country where conflict is in your face at every turn to realize why these three mindsets are so critical to understand when it comes to owning the mindset of being a veteran in the U.S., I hope that after today, you take some time to reflect on the following. Where am I at on this journey as a veteran? Where am I connected? Where am I disconnected? And what are you doing today to make it worthwhile for our lost brethren to wake up and to be needed, to be wanted and loved tomorrow? What are you doing to be that someone that makes someone else look forward to tomorrow? We're unique in this country as a demographic, but we're all in the same subcultural mindset. We've been on a journey that only we can understand. So while you may not surround yourself every day with other veterans or service members, you have a country that's counting on your leadership and your presence to make sure that veterans are not forgotten and that they have a place in our society as productive, purposeful, and loved citizens. So what's your mindset? Thanks. How do you change the look of a veteran? So yeah, that is something. So let's also take this back a little bit further. Both of my parents are veterans. Both of my parents are veterans. That means that my mother is a Vietnam era veteran. And so people may thank my father for his service in the Army, but they never think to thank my mother. And so while the demographics are changing for the military service and more women are serving, thinking back to the Korean War, thinking back to the Vietnam War, even Gulf War, changing that perception. We've all been in different journeys, just like you can't judge a book by its cover. And really, I think the best way to change the public look of a veteran is for veterans to be there. There's this quote by Cecil Richards that I love, and it's, if women don't take time to sit at the table, they're on the menu. So women need to step up, especially women veterans, and be at the table, to be a part of the discussion and to be leaders in their community. Because my mom stepping up, she's a veteran, is what helped me step up to say that I'm a veteran, to help lead for other women veterans. But it's not just for women, it's all demographics. It's no matter what your race is, what your religion is, where you're from. We have a lot of immigrants that come from other countries that serve our nation in uniform. And to assume that everyone's born in Kansas is not correct, you know? And so it's really about telling your story and being there and connecting with other veterans to be united, to change that perception. How do veterans help other veterans get support? I think one of the best ways for other veterans to get support is to realize that there's no one right mold that fits everything, right? So when you start building veteran support networks and programs together, and you start kludging things onto it, like, oh, now we're going to support women veterans. Oh, now we're going to support, children of military, and this. You've got to build it from the ground up, and all your stakeholders have to be involved. And knowing that there's not one solution that fits everyone is so incredibly key. And the more that veterans that have been in unique situations can start to build solutions that work for them, then more people will be able to flock to different solutions that fit for them. So I have a very good friend here in Austin that really found healing through trauma, or healing from his trauma through group exercise. Healing with horses. There's group exercises for everyone, but then there's also togetherness and building trust in a community with larger animals. And then there's also ones that are through art. There's others through music. There's some that, part of my therapy actually was through speech pathology, and to tell people that my story, that it took a village and it took a lot of different solutions to get me to where I'm at today. But if veterans aren't building these solutions from the ground up and diversifying, then it's going to be a lot harder for other veterans to get the support that they need that works for them. How have animals played an important role in your life? So I actually grew up on a ranch fiber farm in North Carolina with llamas and goats and alpacas. And I think that animals are important starting from the beginning all the way through, because it holds you accountable. It's something that takes you away from yourself and your own woes and pulls you out. You're responsible for this other animal and their life and their health. And it gets you out of bed in the morning. It gives you a purpose. It may be small, but it gets you in a routine. And for mental health, that's huge. So as a kid, it taught me responsibility, and it humbles you, and it also teaches you, about taking care of something that's greater than you. In my adult life, I've had dogs, to include a service dog, and in my darkest days, that dog was the reason I got out of bed in the morning, the reason I showered, the reason I went downstairs to go feed that dog, and it's the little things like that when you start doing these little things, it becomes bigger, becomes coming back to life again. And this dog also really helped me with my anxiety and trust with the world again. If this little dog could trust the world, then maybe I could start to trust it too. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one, everyone.